after you tested positive for marijuana last time, the prosecutor was originally recommending 120 days locked up here and having you admit to one of the charges. Here's where we're at now. Here's where we're at now. The last thing she recommended, that we talked about, was if you admit to one of the charges, that she'd recommend 30 days locked up here. I told her, hold on, listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you. What she agreed to do.
Right. Listen. Right.
Okay. Hold on, hang in there. Hang in there. Here's what she's agreed to do, and I think this is what we should do. You're charged with two things: possession of marijuana, and resisting arrest. You admit to the allegations of one, they'll dismiss the other, and then we can go in there and we can argue to the court whether you should be released, the time served. We can argue that. My point is we can argue what it should be, okay? Which is I think the best thing we've got going, because I think last time the court was impressed by all the people who spoke positively about you, and frankly was probably a bit surprised that you were back here again.
I don't even care about being here, man. I got responsibilities at home.
Okay. Well then, here's what I recommend that we do.
Right. Calm down and listen.
Okay. Here's what I recommend that we do. I recommend that we admit to the possession of marijuana. They'll dismiss the other one, and then we go in there.
Why should I do that at night? If I so-called had possession of marijuana, like why do I still got all my money and I've been in jail for marijuana?
Here's the point. The point is you risk going to trial and being, found guilty of doing it and facing the full sentence. So I think we've got a good chance of getting you out of here very, very soon if we do it this way. I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to get out of here.
I don't want to say it no more. Motherfuckers, I ain't even doing nothing.
Rod, that's my point, is you want to get out of here, right? The best chance to get you out of here soon is to go and convince the judge that that's what needs to happen. Are you still recommending, same as before, that it's okay for him to go home?
Yes.
Okay, because frankly, the prosecutor is going to be arguing that he remain incarcerated. I don't know for how long they're going to recommend, like I told you. I'm going to be arguing that he should basically be sentenced to time served. Yes. And go home and be home for his birthday. Okay. I need to know that I've got a witness who's in a position to testify that still is indeed a good result. You're that guy? It's okay for him to go home?
It's okay for him to go home.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And you're still saying?
The 30 days with credit for time served.
Okay, so that's like 15 days. So that would be about
16 days,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're...
And as far as marijuana positive, that's the first and only time that he was tested ever positive for marijuana.
Okay, well the issue is going to be that you're going to, I'm sure, have to explain either to myself or to the prosecutor is, he's had all of these services, all of this money and effort has been spent on him. Right. To have such a small violation is almost worse than having a big violation because you should have known better than to, smoke marijuana or have it on you given everything you've been through.
I think he's trying to help me out in his best way. But, hopefully today I go home. I'm expecting the worst and hoping for the best. But if my mom tell me it ain't gonna be all right, then I guess everything gonna be okay. It's just, man, I've been through this. I just did a whole year, boys. They didn't want me to admit to something I didn't do. Man, I got kids at home, man, and I'm even supposed to be here. But I guess they was gonna let me go home 2 weeks ago. And then I had to take a drug screen, so I failed. And they told me I had to stay until my next court date. And now it's today, but my lawyer trying to give me just 30 days, and the prosecutor, she trying to give me 120 days. And my lawyer trying to fight for me for 30. And they trying to give me, I guess, for 15 time served here already for the 15 days I've been here. And I guess he trying to give me another 15, I guess, during weekends or here. But anyway it go, I just want to go home. be 18 years old tomorrow. And you know, it's gonna be the 4th birthday, man. I ain't been home.
These are the matters of Rodrick Lavelle Brown, cause number 45 DO 60612 JD 2434, which is set for review, and cause number 45 DO 60808 JD 1374, which is set for initial hearing. Let the record show that Attorney Guzik is present representing the prosecutor's office. Ms. Essex and Ms. Clayton are present from the probation department. Attorney Ruck is present representing Rodrick. Your name, ma'am? And you're his mother? All right. Your name, sir? And you're his therapist? Okay.
We're going to deny him.
Very good. As I said, one of the matters is set for review, which was previously being heard by Magistrate Commons, and we have the new matter, which is set for initial hearing. Mr. Ruck, has your client been advised of his rights?
He has, Judge.
Does he understand what his rights are?
He does.
Any questions about them?
Nope.
All right. What is your pleasure? Would you like to proceed with the initial hearing first or the review?
Judge, we can proceed with the initial hearing first.
All right. I will read the charges to him and then ask if he will be entering an admission or denial to the charges. Count 1, possession of marijuana or hashish, class A misdemeanor if he was an adult, IC 35-48-4-11, reads on or about the 2nd day of August 2008, Rodrick Lavelle Brown did knowingly or intentionally possess marijuana in an amount less than 30 grams. Would he be entering an admission or a denial to the allegation?
A denial, Judge, to that allegation.
Count 2, resisting law enforcement, Class A misdemeanor, IC 35-44-3-3, on or about the 2nd day of August 2008. Rodrick Lavelle Brown did knowingly or intentionally flee from a law enforcement officer after that officer identified himself by visible or audible means, ordered said child to stop, that officer being Police Officer Justin Orange, East Chicago Police Department. Does your client wish to enter admission or a denial to that allegation?
He's entering an admission to that allegation, Judge.
All right. Based upon his admission, do you want to set the recite a factual basis?
Mr. Brown, I want to ask you, as a part of what we had talked about, and as a part of our admission to the resisting law enforcement, I would like you to tell the court what happened that night on August 2nd, 2008, only as it relates to your involvement with the police officer and to the resisting law enforcement charge. Nothing to do with the marijuana or anything else that happened that night.
He asked me, was the marijuana man? He was in the process of arresting me for the marijuana, and I wasn't finna let him take me to jail for something that wasn't mine.
So did you resist law enforcement at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you did so intentionally, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Judge, that's all the questions I have.
Based upon his admission to that allegation, Mrs. Guzik, what is your intention as to the other count, count 1?
Judge, the state's going to move to dismiss that.
All right. Then I'll show that count 1 has been dismissed by the state of Indiana, and I will grant the petition as to count 2 and find that that Rodrick Lavelle Brown is a delinquent child. What about disposition in this matter? Do you want me to set it over for disposition, or are we ready to proceed with a recommendation?
We're ready to proceed, Judge. I spoke with the prosecuting attorney, Ms. Guzik, prior to today's hearing, and we'd agree that we will argue what the sentence should be. There's no dispute that I think probation should remain in place. The issue is, should he remain incarcerated for a period of time or not? Our position is he should go home. The state has a different position.
All right. Let's address first the cause that he was on a review. In that matter, which ends in cause number 2434, Rodrick was committed to the Indiana Boys School, and he served several months there and was released with the community service program in place, and was currently on that with Family Support Services, where he was receiving services from Mr. Zaborski. And I'm wondering at this time, Ms. Essex, do you have a recommendation about whether or not he should continue on probation under that cause, or what exactly the court, your recommendation is what the court should do with that?
Your Honor, prior to this new charge occurring, what probation was going to be recommending was that he be released from formal probation under this complaint, and that Family Support Services be discharged, based on the fact that since he has come home and was placed back on probation in January, he did show a lot of improvement in the home setting, the school setting, He was for a time working, decided that he did not want to work in the fast food business anymore, has been doing odd jobs for family members, things of that nature. He did have the gang tattoos removed, covered, which we had covered at the detention hearing, and based on the progress that he made, probation is going to be recommending discharge, especially now if he were to be given a commitment here and released. He has been afforded numerous services through this court since 2005, formal probation, intensive probation, Department of Corrections, counseling, anger management, letters of apology, community service work. So at this time, probation feels that perhaps he should be released under that complaint and then be given time under the initial hearing charge.
Okay. So at this time then, Mr. Ruck, do you have any objection to the court dismissing and finding that he has completed the program under cause number 2434?
Absolutely not.
All right. Let's move on then to the new charge that he has just admitted to. Ms. Essex, do you have a recommendation about what the disposition in that cause ought to be?
Your Honor, probation was considering doing 30 days for each of the complaints. However, since one was dismissed, we would be asking for 30 days with credit for time served for the 14 that he has served since he was detained under that cause. I believe it was a lapse in judgment. This has not been a problem since he has returned home. I don't think that putting him on probation under this complaint would give him anything more than we've already given him under previous charges. So the recommendation would be that he serve the additional 16 days and that when he be released, he have no further services at that time.
Mrs. Guzik?
Well, Judge, the state concurs with probation's recommendation as to a 30-day commitment at LCJC. Rodrick's going to be 18 tomorrow. As Ms. Essex has indicated to the court, he's received numerous services over the past 3 years from this court. I believe it's unlikely that a few more months of supervision by probation is going to effectuate any additional rehabilitation. With that said, he needs to be accountable for the most recent incident that he admitted today, and we would ask that the court commit him to the Lake County Detention Center for 30 days in Stanter.
Mr. Ruck?
Judge, I'll be brief. I do want to give Mr. Zemberski the opportunity, because he did prepare a new report for today's hearing. But let me just say this, Judge. I've gotten to know Rod very well since these charges have happened. And in terms of the issue of punishment, what should happen to him, I think the worst punishment that's happened to him is him to have to face the disappointment of his mother, of the court, and of everybody, and of the probation officer, who have talked in very glowing terms about how much progress he made. Remember, this is the kid who requested that he be put back on probation so he could continue to get the services as opposed to falling back into the trap. Remember, Judge, we see kids all the time. Nobody improves in a straight-up line. Improvements, particularly improvements with the background and the home life that he's had and the difficult challenges that he's faced with the friends that he's had and the trouble that they've been in, it's never a straight-up level of improvement. Ironically, it almost was for him. It seemed to me like over the last year that it was nothing but improvement. But what I think that Mr. Zemberski will tell you, and what I want to reiterate to the court today, is the system's working with him. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. There are setbacks. This is a setback. He got himself in a bad situation, and he's regretting it. In terms of the punishment, he's been in here now for 2 weeks, locked up for 2 weeks, away from his family, away from his friends, and away from his life. His mother's here again today, ready to take him home. But more importantly, the punishment he's had to face all of those around him who marveled at the level of improvement that he had and were so disappointed when he ended up back here. So, Judge, I would suggest that he be dismissed today and punished or sentenced to time served.
All right. Did you want to call your first witness?
Mr. Zemberski?
You've been sworn in previously, you just don't grow.
Tell us your name again, sir.
Robert Zemberski.
What is your profession?
I'm a therapist with the Family Support Services Program.
And as a part of your working with that agency, have you had occasion to work with Rodrick Brown?
Extensively, yes.
And I know that you testified at the detention hearing at that time. Your recommendation is that it would have been appropriate for Rodrick to go home that day, correct?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Now, you're aware that the court had given Rod the opportunity to go home that day if he were to pass a drug test.
Exactly, yes.
Did you administer that drug test?
Yes, I did.
What were the results?
Positive
For what?
for THC, cannabis, marijuana.
Let me ask you then the question. In your experience working with individuals like Rod, with his background, with all the problems that he's had, we all agree that he's made a great deal of progress. Are there setbacks?
Yes, periodically there are setbacks.
And is what happened with Rod and what he's admitted to today a typical type of setback that you see in somebody with his background?
Periodically there are setbacks similar to what happened with Rodrick, yes.
Okay. Now, does a setback such as this change the overall trajectory of the improvement that he was making?
Overall, no. Overall, if you're 99.9% cooperative compliant and that 1% takes the spotlight, it does have a bad effect on the overall picture. But when you look at the consequences as opposed to the successes, it's minor.
Do you believe it would be harmful at all to the community, to others, if Rod were released today?
No, not at all.
Let me ask you the corollary question, sir. Do you believe that continuing to keep Rod in detention for another 30 days, beyond the 2 weeks he's already spent here, could that actually have a detrimental effect on the progress that he was making?
It could decompensate him further, yes.
How so?
His morale, his judgment might be impaired. At this point, I see no purpose in any more punitive damages, or punitive punishment, I'm sorry.
Do you agree with what I had indicated before, that part of the punishment is having to face those around him who have worked so hard to see him improve?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to continue to work with him?
At this point, I'm saying that the family support services have been exhausted,
So you're done?
and I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Judge.
Mrs. Guzik?
Mr. Zembrowski, do you see any positive effects if he was detained here?
Actually, no.
Well, what about that he wouldn't have access to marijuana?
I'm not sure that's a fact.
You think he'd have access to marijuana if he was detained here?
I'm not sure that there is a absolute positive position to take on that.
Now, you talked about people having therapeutic setbacks. If those therapeutic setbacks are criminal in nature, do you believe they should just be ignored?
I don't focus on the criminal aspect of it. I'm looking at the therapeutic aspect of it.
Well, in this instance, the therapeutic setback is criminal in nature. He had marijuana, he tested positive for marijuana, and he's admitted to resisting law enforcement. So do you just think that that should be ignored?
Well, it could be addressed, but I don't understand more continuous punitive results.
So you look at incarceration at LCJC as punitive.
In this instant, yes.
And don't you think he needs to show some accountability for his actions?
Yes, but not necessarily to be detained.
Well, what would be the accountability?
The acknowledgement of it.
I have no further questions for Mr. Zembrowski.
Do you have anything for Mr. Zembrowski?
You understand he's already been here for 2 weeks, correct?
Yes.
And you believe that certainly that had a punitive effect?
Yes.
Okay, that's all that I have.
I have a couple questions. You said that the family support services have been exhausted. Is that because you think the other case is going to be dismissed now, or why did you say that?
No, I'm just saying therapeutic services. I've spent so much time with Rodrick, and I've seen all the progress that he's made over the course of the case. And so at this point, I think that 99.9% of the time of him being compliant was very encouraging. The one setback is relative, but it's not enough to contaminate the 99%.
Okay. Do you think, all right, last time you testified, you said that you met with him, what, weekly, sometimes multiple times during a week?
Yes.
And that led up to the actual day that we were in court for the detention hearing, and I detained him, which was approximately 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes.
And so for the last 2 weeks, then you haven't visited with him, have you?
No.
And if I release him today, if I do what Attorney Ruck has suggested that I do, and I release him today, and we dismiss everything, and he goes home, do you see that as a danger for him without some kind of a safety net? I mean, by your own admission, you've been dealing with this young man for multiple times weekly for about a year, right?
Yes.
And for him to go home with no support, do you think that that is setting him up for maybe some type of failure?
Well, actually, what has been transpired is I expected his release. And so in preparation for that, I've already initiated the termination process.
I see.
So we went from 3 times a week to 2 times a week to once a week. So there was therapeutic services with the termination process in effect.
So you think that he would be just fine without having to see you multiple times a week, or having to check in with a probation officer, or do urine drops to check to make sure that he's not using drugs?
Well, based on his past performance, yes.
Okay.
He will be okay.
Any questions based on what I asked?
No questions, Judge. I wanted to comment.
Mrs. Guzik?
But he did have a dirty urine drop, right?
Yes, he did.
Well, how are we going to know that that's not going to happen again?
I don't think there's any guarantees in this situation. But in the course of an entire year, with multiple drops, twice a week since, say, December, we've got 16, maybe 20 negative urine specimens. We've got 1 positive. I think the overwhelming evidence for me is that he's been compliant. He had a little relapse. He's going to be fine.
Well, is it possible that that's not a relapse, but the start of a pattern of marijuana use?
It's possible, but not probable.
But he's had a problem with marijuana in the past for quite a while, hasn't he?
Years ago, yes.
I have no further questions.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Ruck?
Not of the witness, Judge.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zimbersky. Next witness?
Talk to the judge. Do you? You're going to keep yourself together? All right, good. Judge, I would call Mr. Brown to the stand, please. Tell us your name.
Rodrick Lavelle Brown.
Mr. Brown, we've heard all the testimony today about what people think should happen to you as a result of the charge and admission of resisting law enforcement. What do you want to have happen?
Well, me, I'm always a big person to take the responsibilities for my actions, you know. So I understand I resisted law enforcement. And, you know, me being back there in that room for 2 weeks, you know, that really got to me. And I know I tested, like, positive for marijuana, but that's something I did, like, back in July, and I thought I was going to be clean by the time I came to court. But I ain't know, like, I was going to get in trouble, like, 2 weeks before my court date.
Rod, do you understand and I know some people might say, well, just using a little bit of marijuana isn't like, you know, shooting somebody. But at the same time, do you understand the significance of that one use of marijuana, what it had on your family and your life, and frankly, on the underlying charges that you already had pending against you?
Well, I take full responsibilities for my actions, and if I wouldn't have never used that marijuana weeks ago, I would have been home. And I would have been coming here to get that ankle monitor took off my leg today. I feel like I've been punished, you know, but the only thing that really hurt me the most is all these people that's been working with me. I just feel like I let them down, you know, like Miss Sarah, Bob, my mom. And I feel like I let them down because they've been working so hard with me. You know, I'm disappointed at myself, you know, and then I got, like, a kid on the way. I just want to, like, go home and take care of my responsibilities.
Okay, that's all that I have, Judge.
Mrs. Guzik?
Rodrick, do you remember when we were in court 2 weeks ago?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember Judge Bonaventura asking you about taking a drug test?
Yes, ma'am.
She asked you if you'd be clean or dirty. What was your response?
My response was, and she asked me, that didn't sound too right. And I wasn't pretty much too much sure because I didn't know if I was going to test positive or not.
Well, didn't you say you probably should be clean, something like
I
that?
probably should.
So, but you knew you'd been using marijuana, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were trying to put one over on the judge, right?
No, I thought I was going to be clean. So that's why I didn't say yes, and that's why I didn't say no.
Well, if you take accountability for what you do, why didn't you tell the judge, well, I did use in July? Why didn't you tell her that?
I think mainly because I was scared and I thought I was like gonna be in so much of a lack of trouble, but look where I am now, you know? And if I would have told it the right way like I was supposed to, then maybe I wouldn't have been this far now.
So you were hoping you were going to get by with it?
Not necessarily.
Well, you knew you were lying to the judge.
Judge,
What?
hold on, I'm gonna object to that. He answered the question. The question the court asked was, would he pass a drug test, not did he use marijuana?
I'm going to sustain the objection.
No further questions, Judge.
Anything else, Mr. Rock?
No.
I have a couple questions for Rod. At some point prior to the last time you came into court, you asked, I believe Ms. Essex testified that you requested to remain on probation. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did that why?
Because I felt like if I would have got off probation earlier, and like, I guess like when I got things like hanging over my head, it scribes me to work harder. And and didn't nobody sit down and tell me to be on probation. That's something I thought about myself. And I felt like I needed Mr. Bob and Miss Sarah a little bit more in my life. Because, you know, the summertime was coming and a lot of kids get in trouble in the summertime. And I felt like if I still had Bob and Sarah somewhere around my life, then maybe it'll help me more. So when I do get off probation, by the time I make 18, I'll be a better person.
Which is the reason why I asked Mr. Zimbersky about releasing you today. I mean, if you go home today, if you go home 2 weeks from today, and Miss Sarah and Mr. Bob are not in your life, how will that be for you? Do you think you'll be able to stay out of trouble?
I think I would, because I always think about what they have done to help me and what I have become. Because people, you know, they probably just sit and they looking at everything I've been in trouble for, but they not taking the time and looking and seeing the positive things that I have became.
Let's talk about one of those positive things. You had tattoos removed, didn't you?
Yeah.
And what kind of tattoos were they?
I had gang tattoos, a scripture on my arm.
And did someone tell you to take that off?
No, actually, a year ago, with Mr. Bob, when I first met Bob, I told Bob I was gonna remove my gang tattoos when I got released from DOC. And it took me a long time to understand, to know what I wanted to put over that gang activity. And then I knew that I was going, you know, I knew I was going to do better in life. And now that's why I removed the gang tattoos, because I ain't want part of that life no more. Because, you know, the gang is not here helping me right now.
That's right. So you did that on your own. The court didn't order you to do that?
No, I did.
Your mother didn't ask you to do it?
No. And my mother was very happy that I did that. She was actually shocked.
I'm happy that you did it. I think that's a great thing you did. Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me today?
I feel like, I know I did wrong, but I do feel like I've been punished, you know? Like, I take responsibilities for my actions. But I just, in the end, I feel like I've been punished. I've been here 2 weeks, and it's been a long, long 2 weeks, and I haven't seen my mom.
You haven't seen your mother?
Yeah, I'm gonna be 18 tomorrow. And you know, for the past 3 years, I've been incarcerated for my birthday. And tomorrow I'll be 18 years old. And some people, they used to tell me that I wouldn't live to see 18. For all the stuff that I used to do, they used to tell me I wouldn't live to see 18. And tomorrow I'll be 18 years old.
So do you think you're wiser now, now that you've gone through everything you've gone through in the past 3 years?
I believe so, and I believe, you know, last year I didn't like Miss Sarah Essence at all. I can honestly.
You're probably not alone.
I can
Some
honestly
of her other
say
kids
that.
don't like her either, I'm sure.
But I promise you, I appreciate her sending me to the Department of Corrections, cause it changed. Cause if I would have been released and just went home, I probably would have been on doing the same thing, gang banging, selling drugs, doing it all. But going to the DOC, it made me sit down and think about what I needed more in life, And I got out of there, went to school. I haven't been suspended yet.
Good for you.
And that was like a big thing. I'll be a senior in high school this year. And I'm planning on graduating next June. I was supposed to graduate this June. But I just feel like I let down a lot of people that just helped me. And it's my first downfall. But I ain't gonna let it keep me down. Cause when I go home, regardless if I go home today or 2 weeks from now, when I get out, I'm still gonna go to school and I'm still gonna be this positive person I became, cause I like the person that I became. Yeah, cause if I was still doing the same thing, everybody in this courtroom would not be, they'd be against me.
If you remember 2 weeks ago, Miss Essex sat here and said you should go home that day, in spite of everything she heard that day. So there's a lot of people that think, they like the person you've become too. Okay? All right, have a seat next to your lawyer now.
And another thing I would ask me, I just please hug my mother.
Oh, sure. You can go back there and hug her now. Okay. Okay. Any final things, Mr. Rock?
Just very briefly, Judge, I think the testimony of Rod speaks for itself. All I say in conclusion is, it seems to me that the prosecution's case is, do we have proof that this won't happen again? Well, I'll admit, we don't. We don't have proof that he's not going to leave here today and go out and gather with the same friends that caused all the trouble to begin with. We never had that proof. But the purpose of this system, the juvenile court system, is to do our best to rehabilitate a kid who's had the problems that Rod has had, and to give him another chance. And to give him another chance after that, after we try and help him again. And by all intents and purposes, the system's done their job. We've given him all the help we can, and I will tell you, he turns 18 tomorrow. The consequence now, if he leaves here today and associates with the bad people around him again and does anything close to what he was even charged with in this case, is that he ends up not here having this kind of discussion, but across the street. Right. I think, Judge, that kind of motivation is more than what's necessary to assure the court that this won't happen again. And we've done all we can do. Thank you.
Mrs. Guzek, anything?
Just briefly in response, the prosecution's case isn't, will it happen again, but did it happen? We know it did happen. He's admitted it happened. Plus, we have a dirty drug screen. Once again, Judge, he's been provided numerous services through this court. The state believes that actions speak louder than words. We've sat here, you and I, many, many years, and listened to many children promise this court, you and I, many things. Often we were disappointed. I'm not real impressed by people's words. I'm very impressed by their actions. Today, I'm not real impressed by Rodrick's actions. He's made a lot of positive changes in his life that appear to be positive changes, but he's still involving himself in criminality. And I think because of that, he needs to be held accountable. And once again, the state reiterates its request for 30 days commitment to LCJC.
There's a whole bunch of stuff I could say to you today, Rod. One of them is to echo what Mr. Ruck just said about if you go out, whether it's today or 2 weeks from today, and engage in criminal activity. I can guarantee you that there won't be Bob Zimberski over there, there won't be Sarah Essex, or any of the other people that you've made friends with and that have been supportive to you over the last 3 years. Because over there, they don't care about care, treatment, or rehabilitation. They're about punishment. And maybe that's the way to do it. In the juvenile court system, we do it differently. And for a reason. We try to prepare young people that are going astray to get back on the right path. And it sounds like you did that and are doing that, hopefully, and will continue to do that. And you have had a lot of services, and it sounds like you've taken advantage of those services and done some really good things in your life. I know that it was huge for you to remove the gang tattoo, which speaks volumes to me. After doing this job for 26 years, I'm sure there's somebody out there that has, but no one that I'm aware of that's ever done that and has sat up on the stand and testified that you've done it, knowing that you're going to go back out in the same city that you were in when you belonged to that gang and maybe take your chances of what denouncing them might do to you today. And so I take my hat off to you for that. I think that's very commendable, and I think that shows the improvements and the changes you've made in your life. Today, what the court's going to do is dismiss the case that was pending the review before Judge Commons and release you from probation under that cause. I will say, too, that I had a discussion with Judge Commons about you this morning. I know you remember him. And what he said to me about you was that you're like this close to succeed, and you're so afraid of that it's easier for you to fail. Because drug addicts and criminals are a dime a dozen in this county and in this state and in this nation. But you are this close to succeeding. He knows you're going to succeed. I don't know. I haven't known you as long as he has, but I've known him pretty long. And if he thinks that about you, I know you're going to make it, and I want you to make it. And if you ever get to a point where you think you can't, just think about this hearing today and all this argument about whether you're a good person or you're not. There's only really one opinion in this room right now that matters, and it's mine. And I think you are a good person, and I think you're going to make it. And for that reason, today the court is going to order that you serve 30 days in the Lake County Juvenile Center, and I'm going to give you credit for the time you've served. I'm going to release you today and order you be released to the custody of your mother. Okay. Any questions? All right. You're welcome. This hearing's adjourned. Thank you.
All right. You got it.
May I hug Miss Bob Sombersky and Miss
Sure.
Sarah Essen?
If they want to hug you, you can hug them.
I'm not going to make that request.
Thanks, Bob. That's my first
You
time
like me
ever
now,
hugging you, Miss
huh? I
Sarah.
know. So we're good now?
All right.
Head up. You know how to get a hold of me if you need me, right? Okay.
I appreciate everything you've done for me, Miss Sarah.
You know how you get a hold of me if you need me, even if you're done with me, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Head up.
Good night. Take care. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Hang in there. Oh, take care. Yeah, good. Okay.
I thought they was gonna make him do the extra 15 days. But hey, I guess, all the other little work he's been doing up to the August the 2nd, it paid off. Get something good out of it. So he'll be okay. I think he'll be okay. Roger Key just, he'll be all right.
He's a good kid that obviously,
Yeah, he's
maybe-
smart. That's the real part, that he's really smart. He's real intelligent. I tell him, I say, why you keep going the wrong way when you're too smart for that? You got to use it on something positive. I say, all the negative stuff you do, if you can use it on something positive, you'll be good. You'll be real good. So hopefully he'll take from this, because I told him, you turn 18, next time you go to jail, you're going to be calling me from a payphone. And I ain't got no bond money. So he'll be okay. I don't think he really want to, come back to jail no more.
What's your hope for him once he returns home? What's your hope for your family when you get back?
Well, school starts in about another week, so he got to get ready for school. I know he want to go to school, and we probably move, so he'll be okay. He'll be all right. Just get him away from the environment, something different. He'll be okay. Get him a different job. Help him find another job. That's what we'll do. Help him find another job and make sure he stay at school. He'll be all right.
Is this kid going to be okay once he's released? Is he going to be better in 2 weeks after serving more time than he is to be released now? So my gut feeling is that he's okay the way he is now. Yes, he did relapse. But when you look at the overall behavior, months and months of compliant and weed-free and doing what he's supposed to do in classroom and attendance and everything, he's a good kid. So I can't, in my heart, my gut feeling is, no more punitive stuff. He needs to be counseled, he needs to be listened to, and that's what he had.
The population that I deal with, I work for intensive probation, so I get the majority of my cases are on house arrest. They have a state commitment already. They're seen weekly by myself as well as our other staff. So when I originally had Rodrick, I think he lasted about 2 weeks in the house before he decided to run after having a disagreement with mom, and he was missing for about 5 to 6 months. So when he came here, we really had no choice in what we were going to do with him because he was already ordered to be at the Department of Corrections if he failed my program. So I think that since he's been home, you can see a major difference, that he hasn't run away again. He has always been pretty forward with me about what's going on. When he's told me he's going to do things, he's followed through. So I think that that speaks a lot more than just him telling me, yeah, I'm going to get my tattoos removed. But when I went to see him again and they were actually covered up, when he asked about getting progress reports at school from his teachers and he got blank ones while I was there to have them fill out, those are the kinds of things that, seeing that, it spoke a lot more, you know, like the prosecutor said, actions speak louder than words. So I think that he's proven to me a lot, which we can't say about all of our kids, especially once they come home from the Department of Corrections. It's, you know, a 50-50 shot if they're going to go on the straight and narrow or if it's going to kind of turn them the other way. So I think that he's shown what he's really made of, and hopefully he's sincere in what he's saying now, and you know, it's not just to get out of the juvenile center, and hopefully, you know, I'll hear from him later on that he's doing well and we get along now. And you need accountability, but you don't want accountability to be where it's going to cause them to go the other way and it's going to make them go back on any progress they've made. And I think that's the hard thing as a probation officer. It's not easy for us to lock people up, regardless of what people think. They think that it's so easy to come in and take somebody out of the home and away from their family, and it's not an easy decision to make. Their behavior determines what we have to do in court. So with him, it's about finding a punishment that's appropriate to hold him accountable, but also not make him go back the other way where he was before.
Well, that's encouraging for me to go on to the next case, because I know I'm measurably doing something that affects the kids and the family and eventually the community. So, you know, I'm in a position where I don't have to do this, but I'm doing it because it's really working from my heart. It's better than retiring and hanging around McDonald's. So my position now is, since I have more past than future, what can I do that's valuable to the community? And so I feel very rewarded. And of course, the acknowledgement from Rodrick is appreciated, but I'm ready to move on to the next case. He's going to be a very productive member of society. He's going to be graduating next year and on to college or trade school.
Your hope?
I would say that my hope is that whatever Rodrick decides to do with his life, that he is able to be successful at it. A lot of my old kids wind up incarcerated across the street in the adult system, or we end up burying them. And I am tired of losing kids. So my hope for Rodrick is that we don't have to go through that with him, and that whatever it is he decides to do, that he's successful at it and that it makes him happy.